It's time for the Everyman podcast. So sit back, it's time to get your brain relaxed. So tune in almost every week as we share our thoughts that it's okay to speak. It's the Everyman, but it's for everyone. Making mental health priority one. But it's for everyone, making mental health priority one.
Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Everyman podcast. Now, tonight we have a very special guest. We have Stu with us from the Man Cave, who is here to help us talk about the conversation around men needing to find community. How are you doing tonight, Stu?
Not too bad at all, thanks. How about yourselves?
Yeah, really good, thanks, mate. It's been a busy day, busy couple of weeks. We've had lots on, both on like private lives, personal lives, and then the podcast has made a comeback over the last sort of month or so. Which all that really means is I end up having a little bit of go. Dean's laughing here at the rest of the people involved in the podcast to say, like, we can do so much more. Like, there's so much we can do. So yeah, I've been super busy, and yeah, it honestly just feels so good to be back. It is the highlight of my week every single week.
Sounds good. Sounds good. Yeah, I know what it feels like to be super busy. It's been absolutely crazy at work just lately. So yeah, all good. All good though.
Yeah. Dean, how are you?
I am the polar opposite me. I've just chilled, got out on. Probably need to start actually, like, I say that I'm like chilled and I've got out on, but I've actually got so much that I should be doing, but I'm just procrastinating all day and just kicking it down the road. So I suppose saying it out loud, I should probably kick myself up the arse and get on with it, starting first thing tomorrow.
The realization is kicking in.
Yeah, I don't really think about it until I start saying it on here, you know.
Yeah, no, it's very true. The amount we've spoke about it, but yeah, it's very, very, very true. So Stu, just to give the audience a little bit of an idea of who you are and why you'd be on the Everyman podcast, do you mind telling us a little bit about you, but also then why you're so interested and passionate about sort of men's health?
Stu Burman, 43 years old, single dad of 3. Yeah, set the group up 2 years ago that I run called the Man Cave. It was down to a spinal surgery I had in 2016 that went horribly wrong. Left me in hospital for months, pretty much. Had to learn to walk again, pretty much. I was 2 millimeters from never walking again. So before that happened, it was marathons, triathlons, long distance running, training every day in the gym, running around with my kids, all this kind of stuff. And all that literally in the blink of an eye just got taken away, and was told I'd never train again, never lift weights again, run again. I'd probably walk with a limp for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
And then that kind of, I had reconstructive surgery. They fixed what they'd done wrong. Like I say, then I had to learn to walk again, things like this. The road to recovery physically wasn't that bad, if that makes sense. Okay. But it was up here. That's where it hit me, because everything I was used to got taken away. 7 months, 8 months down the line, I was then diagnosed with PTSD, which then led to horrific depression, anxiety, to the point where I couldn't even sit in a restaurant and eat a meal because I felt like everyone was looking at me because I was still on crutches, things like this.
Yeah.
And it just spiraled, but it went horrendous, to the point where 3 years ago I knew how I was going to take my own life. I genuinely just didn't want to be here anymore, and I'll quite happily sit here and say it now. I sat at set of traffic lights. It was actually on two separate occasions I thought about doing it. One, my father unfortunately found me sitting on the wall of our local river, and to have my own dad find me in that situation was just horrendous. And the second time was I was sat at a set of traffic lights, 2 o'clock in the morning, took my seatbelt off, and I was just going to drive through the shops at the end of the road. And I don't know what happened, but my phone was on the passenger seat. Nobody called me, nobody rang me, text me, anything. And my phone just lit up, and it was a picture of my children. And that was, come on, you dickhead, you know, you need to sort this shit out now. This is enough's enough, you know. And I put my seatbelt back on, and I turned right at the traffic lights instead of going straight on. And I drove, and I only lived 5 minutes from the beach, and I went and sat up there till early hours of the morning. And that was, you know, my turning point to start working on my head. A few other things happened in the meantime. I'm not going to go in too much into that, but my marriage broke up, things like this as well. And I totally understand, you know, my ex couldn't handle my mental health. It must have been horrendous to live with. It was horrific for me. So, you know, but there was other stuff that went on in the meantime. And yeah, people thought I was going to break, but in retrospect, it turned me the other way. It completely changed my life for the positive. Everything that should have broke me made me stronger. And that started with obviously the physical side. So that then in 2022, I was in the place mentally where I'd built up my survival guide, been down the suicide route, and I thought, I need to help other people, not become a statistic like I nearly did. So I put it off, and I had all this stuff, the man cave, sketched out in a notebook. And it was all sat there, and I kept putting it off because I didn't feel I was ready. But then I listened to an audio book, and it was about an athlete who got paralyzed, and his life completely ended. He didn't have a chance to start again like I did. And I thought to myself, right, now that is my sign. This is the time where I need to just make a basic logo, get this thing going live, and just put it out there, put the feelers out there and see where it goes. And as of this week, I think we've now hit 3,400 followers. And, you know, that is the messages that I get on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. You know, if it wasn't for this group, I don't think I'd be here anymore. That to help that amount of people, I only set it up to help one guy, you know, to replace what I lost, you know, what I could have been. But to have that kind of knowledge that these guys are now got a platform to speak, now got a platform to open up. And obviously it's all about the stigma with men, isn't it? That's what it is. You know, when you look at me, bald head, beard, tattoos, you know, this kind of stuff, you think to yourself, this guy can take on the world. Man, I cry at adverts these days, you know. But beforehand, closed book, absolute closed book, you know. But yeah, that's up till 2 years ago. I was a mess, an absolute mess, you know. And
do you know what?
I'm gonna let you guys say something now because I feel like I'm talking for ages.
No, it's good that you're talking for ages. That's good. That's the point of you being here, right? We want to know your story, your why you're so passionate about it. And I think what's really interesting, so I can absolutely relate to your story versus my own, or in terms of my own story, where it's that decision, or getting to that decision in your head of, okay, I'm either going to die because I don't want to be here anymore, or I'm going to have to do something about it. And where you've got so much strength from trying to help others, because that's helped your recovery. I can be honest, like us as a podcast, it's exactly the same. Like so much of my own recovery and me being happy with who I am in my own life has come from actually trying to make sure other people never feel like that alone. So
I mean, even sitting here right now, I would take pain away from anyone because I know I've lived it, I've dealt with it, I know how to cope with it. And you know, sitting here knowing that it's literally helping people, it's literally saved lives, is just an absolutely unreal feeling. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and, you know, say this I'm the greatest person in the world, but just to be able to help one person is, I can't,
agreed.
unless you've actually done that, I don't know, I can't put into words how that feels. And like you say, knowing that you're helping, it helps me. My demons, you know, they work for me now. That's how it's always going to be. And I know for a fact, I never wanted to die. I wanted the illnesses to die. I never wanted to leave my kids. I never wanted to leave my family, my friends, you know, this kind of thing. But my illness had destroyed who I was. Literally, it made me something that I never ever thought I would be. It literally became me. And that was hard for me to watch, let alone anybody else who was close to me. And nowadays I live by the quote, and I put it in the group all the time. Lewis, you've probably seen it in the group, you know, if nothing changes, then nothing changes.
So
and
true.
That is literally what I wake up every morning and I think to myself, am I going to get up this morning? Yes, because if I don't, nothing's going to change. I'm not going to grow today. I'm not going to learn anything new today. I'm not going to get stronger today if I just lay in bed. And that for me
so true.
is something that keeps me going. It's such a simple but really, really effective quote to live your life by. And that gets me through a lot of dark times, if I'm honest with you, because it's so easy. Anyone who's ever suffered with mental health problems, it's so easy to just pull the duvet over your head in the morning. And don't get me wrong, a bad day, I love having a bad day, because now it gives me the practice that, you know, to keep those coping strategies going. I embrace a bad day nowadays. You know, that we're human beings, for goodness sake. You know, we don't, even the richest, most famous people in the world, they have bad days. But the thing is, I don't label it as a bad day anymore. It's just a day. I've had a day today. That's good enough. You know, more than good enough.
And I'm still here, and I'm grateful.
Exactly.
And all those
I got up
things.
today. I've done what I need to do. I'm going to bed. I've had a day. See you again tomorrow. Let's smash it again.
Yeah,
you know,
I love that. It's a good mentality to have.
Yeah, and it's been.
One of
don't get me wrong. It's been the hardest
one of the,
fight
sorry,
of my
mate,
life.
I think there's a lag on my end. I'm sorry. I think it definitely is my end. One of the questions I have around that is when I reflect on me getting to that point of not wanting to be here anymore, and I look back at my recovery, I feel like if I never hit that really bad low, I don't know if I would be in that really good place today, because the low almost woke me up of like, okay, I have that really, really challenging decision of, right, I'm either going to live or die. That's ultimately where I got to. And it was there for a while. And the fear that I've got, and speaking super honest here, and it's a big reason why we do the podcast, I don't know if I had listened to this podcast before the month before, the 6 months before, whatever, before I got to that really low point, whether this would have been enough for me to take the action. And I think the hardest part is and I'm not expecting you to know the answer, but I'm wanting to talk about it. How can we encourage men, and women as well, but generally men, we have the higher rate of suicide, most likely to die under 50 by suicide, all those sort of statistics that are well out there. How can we inspire men to make the change, the step before that I'm going to kill myself, or that 2 steps before I'm starting to feel suicidal? Like, how do we encourage that? What can we do?
That's a really, really good question. And because of the stigma surrounding it, I think certain industries, like the industry I work in the oil and gas industry. That is a keep it under your hard hat industry. You know, nobody in that industry talks. It's, you know, generations of people who are from their dad. You know, my dad's a scaffolder. My dad is one of the hardest men I've ever met in my life. His dad was a military guy. He was in the Navy, you know, so tough upbringings. My dad suffers with lung cancer. He got diagnosed 5 years ago with lung cancer. And my dad is now the softest man. He's completely changed because he's understanding what your body and what your life can go through. And I think because he's seen me go through things as well, he started opening up. He talks more. He's in the group, you know, things like this. He shares a lot of inspirational quotes and things like this now. Whereas before, my dad, like I say, he's just a tough old school man.
Yeah.
You know, and I like to think that we can break into these older generation guys, but in some respects, we need them to come forward and ask for help, if that makes it, you know, ask for ways of how are we going to do this? How, because I think if we go to them all the time, these guys just get fed up talking, you know, trying to talk about it.
Yeah.
And it's an encouraging thing that people like my dad, his kind of age, my dad's 73, I think he is now, 74. And that kind of age group, that's almost like a lot of people think it's too late for them.
Yeah.
But it's not. You know, but one of the things that I want to try and do, I want to try and start focusing on the younger people as well. One thing I want to try and do, I want to try and get involved with the FA and get involved with grassroots football, because young lads, young girls, things like this, starting out nowadays in football, these kids are getting scouted professional contracts now at 8 years old. You know, to get mental health, talking about mental health into the younger people is going to change the future forever, because they're not going to be, you know, in this generation where they're afraid to talk. They're going to know how to handle it. They're going to know how to deal with it. You know, there was a friend of mine just before Christmas, his son was getting bullied and he didn't know how to talk about his mental health, because his dad, offshore worker, things like this. His dad came home as their only child. His dad came home, literally said to his son, me and your mum are just popping to the shop for half an hour. They went to the shop, came back. His son was hanging out of the loft by his dressing gown cord. He had an iPhone 13 at 11 years old. And he was getting bullied, and it affected his mental health so bad he took his own life because he didn't have an iPhone 15. And these kids these days, they need to know that talking is going to save lives. Because I know for a fact, if I hadn't talked, and this is one of the things I want to get out there to these older guys, talking will change your life. It will save your life, 100%.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know the same as you guys. I don't think there is an answer for the older generation. It's going to take something special to change certain industries, certain guys' mindsets, of how to talk, when to talk, why they've got to talk. But again, a lot of, well, all of mental health recovery, I believe, you are your own hero in life. And again, if nothing changes, nothing changes.
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna sit in the darkness, what you think is what you become. And if you're gonna sit in the darkness all the time, that's the only place you're gonna stay. You know, someone asked me, what do you think about the things in your head? For me, I call them the demons. Demons are a living thing. They feast on negativity. That is their food. And if you constantly feed them negativity, that's all they're going to live on. You are literally just keeping them alive. Whereas every day, if you can just find one small positive in the course of a day, you're taking literally their food away from them. And if you do that every single day, that plate of positivity is eventually just going to heap up and just spill over until that is literally all you're living.
Yeah.
You know, I know it's so easy to live in the negative. It's so easy to just stay in the black because it almost feels safe, like nothing else can get hold of you. And that's almost when you're in that headspace, it's a comforting place to be. It really is. But
I think when you're in that negative place, because it's comfortable, because you're always in it, you almost feel like you don't want to leave it because of the uncomfortableness of oh shit, I now have to recognize how I'm really feeling. I have to understand it, I have to think about it, I have to deal with it. So I think that's definitely something that I've experienced within the so where you say about people talking and opening up. So before you had your like bad moment, the two times where you really thought about it, what were you like with talking up before that?
Didn't do it.
Never.
Didn't do it. Even probably the first 6, maybe 8 counselling sessions I managed to have, I literally just sat there. I didn't know what to say. And then basically what happened was I started journaling, and I literally just wrote down in the front of my journal every single word that was in my head. There's 100 odd words at least. I can quickly grab the journal if you want me to, so you can have a look. But
yeah, go on.
Just bear with me one sec. One sec.
I'd get mine out, but there's nothing in it.
Yeah.
I think I did
my
3.
diary is actually full.
So this.
Me and Baker.
I did.
Wow.
See that?
Lovely.
So basically, that was every single word that was in my head. There's some positives, there's some negatives. And basically then what you can do, because your brain can't make sense of everything that's going on, swimming around in your head all at once. So all of those words, I've then taken just one word at a time and just focus on, why am I thinking like that? Why am I thinking of that word? And then you can start making a sentence of it and a paragraph. Before you know it, you've got a page of that word, and the thoughts and the feelings, and you can process it. But one thing, someone said to me, okay, right, describe to me PTSD and depression. I'm like, right, okay. I think I can't. And then it took me probably 3 years to come up with this analogy. I've told the guys in the group this before. They all think I'm crazy anyway, so I might as well just tell you boys. But your brain is like an octopus. So you've got the body of the octopus with one positive word inside. And then all 8 arms of the octopus grab a negative, they pull them into the middle, and then the octopus squirts its ink. Now find the positive in there. That's what it was like every single day. That's the easiest way I can describe it. It was like literally walking through fog in the dark. It was impossible, absolutely impossible. So doing what I did in my journal, that was clearing the fog, if you like. And when you get, say, 100 words and you've got through, say, 50 of them, and you've got all this stuff in the book and you're thinking, yeah, that makes perfect sense. It's like you're chopping an arm of the octopus with one of the negatives off. Yeah. And that arm's then gone, so you've now only got 7 arms to get through. And then before you know it, you're down to, say, 3 arms left. And you're thinking more clearly, you're more positive in yourself. The actions every day that you're taking are more positive, and the way you're talking about yourself as well, because taking care of yourself when you're suffering with mental health problems, that's your personal hygiene, things like this, that just all slips. Yeah. You might only shower 3 times a week rather than every day, or, but that just helps with every single process of the recovery, the journey that you're on. But one thing I will always say through the recovery process is trust the process. Don't rush the process. Don't, if you've got a partner, don't say, oh yeah, I'm feeling loads better, just because you're worried about what she's thinking, what she's feeling. I
definitely did that. I 100% did that.
I did, and all it did was made me 10 times worse. Yeah. You are not in this recovery process to keep anybody else happy. You are literally in this process to keep yourself, if that makes sense. You are looking for you. You are not looking for anybody else in this recovery process. You are looking for you again. Yeah. You have always got your own happiness. Everything you need is right inside you. I tell the boys in the group, at the end of every day, if you stand and look in the mirror, who are you left with? You strip everybody else out of your life. Who are you left with? The person staring back at you. And if you haven't got that person, you've got nobody. That person staring back at you is the most important person you will ever have in your life, without a shadow of a doubt. Because if you haven't got you, you can't expect anybody else to want you either. Yeah. So that's where the self-care, the self-belief, the self-respect, the self-love, that's all got to be so high up on your priority list. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, you're not fit to do anything else. And that's where the positivity comes in. If you're feeling good about yourself, the way you look, the way you feel, everything else is just going to flow. And that's so important. I truly believe that.
Yeah, I completely agree with that as well. I think it's really hard to think like that in the dark times, isn't it? Because
Oh, definitely.
you're almost not understanding. Yeah, you're not understanding why you're going through it and
No.
what you're going through. I think what would be it's probably a good segue into that this bit here then. So within the group, so I've been a member of the group now, I don't know, say 6 months.
Yeah.
I couldn't tell you off the top of my head. I'm sure the group would tell me how long I've been a member, but and every single day there is tens, if not multiple, of either posts from men or comments from men looking to help each other, encourage each other, support each other. And before this episode, like I did some research around the need for community within men, and there's some statistics that really stand out within this. So one that came up straight away was that social isolation, for example, a 2020 report from the American Psychological Association found that men are twice as likely as women to report having no close friends, with 1 in 5 men saying they have no one to turn to in times of need. And we've spoke about this before on the podcast, how to be really clear to everyone, if we've got any new listeners, we speak about men's health and women's health. Generally leaning more towards men. We over-index on 4 men involved in the podcast, 1 female, but we have spoke about like fertility and things like that in the past, because we very much believe that you can't solve men can't solve men's health alone, because we've been getting it wrong for so long. And women, I'm not saying women generally have it perfect, because they don't, but they are better at being there for one another and having deep, meaningful conversations.
Yeah.
And I think the big thing when I read that stat is that we have, for all we strive for equality in lots of different ways, and we strive for equality in pay, in access to like sports and all these sorts of things, which are great causes to be championing, there just isn't the same equality drive to get men and put men in situations and societally accept that not every man can be the most successful man, where there's constantly a pressure on all of us to be the breadwinner or be the leader or be like the man. And they're all traits that we have in us naturally. And I'm a bloke who's super competitive, trying to like hate losing at anything, and those traits naturally align to me as well. But those traits, when I didn't respect the fact that me as a man don't have a community around me to have deep, meaningful conversations, meant I had no safety net when my health and my mental health deteriorated. I didn't have the network or the strength of the people around me to go, I'm Lewis, I'm 29 years old at the time, I don't want to be here anymore. Where you look at women and some of the statistics around women's suicide rates, they think about suicide more than men, but men commit suicide more. And a big reason why I believe that they think about it but don't commit it is because of that support network that they have around them to have those deep conversations, where intrinsically men, we don't have that.
And again, I think that goes back to, you know, the generation type thing, the eras that people were brought up in. Traditionally, the man, like you say, was the breadwinner. The ladies would stay at home, take care of the children. They'd have the support network doing school runs, things like this, their little, you know, coffee meets and things like this that they have. Men generally didn't have that kind of thing. You know, when I always go back, when I talk about things like this with people, I always go back to the Mickey Flanagan sketch. I don't know if you've ever seen it, where he says, my wife was very interested in when I was going down the pub. You know, she asked, oh, how was Tony's wife, Sue? I didn't ask how Sue was. To be honest, I don't even think how Tony was. You know, you don't generally talk. When you go out for a beer with your mate, you go out for a beer, you go out for a laugh. You don't sit there talking about your thoughts and your feelings. But women, they'll get round the table, they'll natter about so-and-so and this and that. And, you know, that's why, you know, when my partner says, oh, do you want to come out with me and my friends? Absolutely not, thanks. I'm good. I don't want to sit there and listen to you lot cackling on all night, you know. You go out, you do you. That's absolutely fine with me. But again, like I say, I think it's more of a generation type thing where men literally we got up early in the morning, we go to work, we come home, we have our dinner, say goodnight to the kids, you go to bed. Then again, Monday to Friday, that's it. And then Saturday you spend the time with the family, Sunday you spend the time with the family, then it's all again the same again on Monday. My dad worked offshore pretty much his whole life. He missed birthdays, Christmases, stuff like this, where mum was working, but she had her friends. Mum, even now, she goes out with her friends. They're both retired. Whereas dad, he hasn't really got a lot of friends. He doesn't see a lot of people. But it's one of those things. I personally believe it's the generation, it's the era that certain guys are from. But again, like I say, with the younger generation now, hopefully we can start making some real serious changes in regards of getting these kids talking about their feelings, their thoughts, what they're
Learning from the
suffering
past.
with. Yeah, there's got to be a way that this kind of whole stigma starts again, but in a more positive way. The stigma, you've got to make the stigma of this kid don't shut up talking about his feelings. That's what I want. I want these youngsters in the future to be able to just be comfortable to go to anyone and just say, I'm having a really off time at the moment. Do you mind if I talk to you? Rather than just sweep it under the carpet and pretend it's not happening, because when you do that, all you're doing is becoming a ticking time bomb. And that's then when you end up sitting on the wall of a river or staring down the barrel of something. It's not a good place to be. Not at all.
Yeah. No, I think that's a really good point. Dean, I have a question for you. So I'm going to put you on the spot here as well. How do you think we can address the young people talking more about health and how they feel?
I think it's getting better already. I think you can see it, can't you? Like, people are getting involved, and I think, as you're talking about generational things, as they see people like us opening up and talking about this sort of thing, they'll feel more comfortable. So I think the world is changing with that whole like love yourself and being able to speak to people. So I don't think I think it's going to get better, just by doing things like this that we're doing.
Yeah.
I think for me, a big thing that society misses, we go to the hospital if we break our arm. We don't go somewhere when we want to commit suicide, or we are so depressed where we've spent a week in bed. Like, the society doesn't have that same support network. So a little bit about my story here. So I was addicted to gambling and I didn't want to be here. I went through the NHS, I went to my local GP. I got assigned a nurse who, basically because I said I was suicidal, but mainly I was suicidal. How what? Sorry.
Like, what's the time frame on this? So, like, you went to the doctors. How long until they referred you to a nurse? Same day or?
No, weeks. 2 weeks, 3 weeks from initial phone call saying that I was suicidal and didn't want to be here anymore. And so obviously there's a lag within public health. And then when I went there, all they were saying was, take some medication. Like, just take some medication and you'll be fine. Like, take some medication and ultimately it will help you not feel as low. You'll not feel as low anymore, and you'll suppress your feelings a little bit, and you'll be fine. And that's my fear for the younger generation, because we don't have the healthcare system within the UK, especially, where they are geared up effectively to deal with people who are struggling with various forms of mental health. I found that it was very much a one-size-fits-all approach. So I'm going down the path of understanding if I have ADHD. I believe I have. My ADHD initial conversation and my addiction conversation and my suicide conversation are all the same process within the NHS. And I understand there's got to be an entry point, but they're three very, very, very different things. And each of them, they've tried to suggest medication, which is suppressing my brain and who I am as a person, versus allowing me to educate myself, to your point around education with the young people, and not allowing me to really understand and adapt my life based upon who I am as a person and how to ultimately live my best life with how my brain currently works. And my biggest fear is not only that we get people talking, great, that's amazing, but it's how we then support them in an effective way. Because I don't, for me, and Christian, our producer, he's on medication for some of the things he's got going on. And I'm not talking out of turn there, he spoke about it on the podcast. And it's one of those where we have a healthy debate fairly regularly, because what is that doing if you ever come off it? Historically, and we can't always look at history, but historically, we haven't been on drugs all the time for our mental health. I think what we've stopped doing in society is we've lost the social connection with people. We're more we connect through our phones. A lot of people work from home now. We have obviously remote working policies. We have people have friends through social media, not through real human interactions. And I think what we actually need to do is dial up the real personal stuff and more human connection, which will then ultimately remove some of the barriers. Because people, one, will stop feeling like they're the worst person in the world and they're the only person in the world who's going through that, because we do feel like that when you're at a low. And they'll start to understand that maybe other people are going through similar things. That's
I think
kind
it would
of
help with the issues as well. I'm just saying it would actually help with the issues as well, because a lot of it is that, like, you look now, you know, on the weekends and stuff. But back when I was a kid, we used to always be out on the fields, and there was hundreds of kids and that. Now it's a ghost town on a weekend. You know, everyone's just in the house on the games. So I think having that social interaction would actually help with the root cause of the mental health, as well as the ability to sort of open up and talk about it. You know,
definitely, and that was one of the reasons for the group as well. The way that it snowballed. You know, to have that amount of people being able to just talk and support each other, and you know, that kind of thing, it's given people that freedom to, like you say, they're not the only one going through it. You've got probably 50, 60 people in there, all with, you know, just for example,
something
bipolar, you know, something like this. So these people, you know, like you say, it's not a one size fits all. So what works for one person's recovery might not work for, but if someone gives them 10 ideas, they try one of them and it works for them, you know. So that's kind of a great thing to have in regards of, oh, you know, so and so's going through something like this as well. Let me just hit him up, see if he feels this way sometimes or that way sometimes. And that's again another reason of why that platform is just working so well, because it's bringing a lot of people together who never ever thought, oh, other people might be going through something so similar. And one thing I've noticed as well is, one of the things when you are struggling, or my problems don't seem as bad as somebody else's, but every single person in this world is an individual. So if that problem matters to you, then it's
100%.
important. You know, it's important because it's bringing you down in your everyday life. So that is vital that you talk about it. Yes, someone who's, I don't know, lost their child or something might not be so bad as, you know, might not seem so bad in the real world as, I lost 50 quid today or something like this. But that 50 quid might be the difference of you being able to pay your rent this month, or whether you can feed your children, which in turn then starts other things spiraling down, you know. So it's all relative. You know, every single person's problem is completely unique to them, you know. So when you feel, oh, my problem, I'm not going to talk about it because it doesn't seem like a big deal, all you're doing is suppressing that feeling. Oh, you know, I'm not going to talk about it because, oh, I'll just cope with it. You don't have to just cope with it. Talk about it. Get those thoughts out of your head. It will make your head feel better by talking about it. Doesn't matter. I will sit up all night and listen to anyone's problems. Doesn't matter how big or how small they are. I was chatting to a guy from the group last night. He had a couple of things going on. He went away. Do you know what, mate? That's actually helped me out by talking about it. You know, it's made me feel better that we've rationalised it, and that's exactly what we did. I haven't got all the answers, but just genuinely just being there for someone, listening, and having a bit of empathy. You know, someone said to me, "What does empathy mean to you?" Empathy isn't feeling sorry for someone. Empathy is feeling sorry with someone. You know, and that's quite a bold statement, that is, because people, when they start to talk to you, there's some people who expect you to have all the answers. No one's got the answers. The answers belong to you. You've got to create those answers. Because all we can do sitting here now talking, we can all come up with some ideas, a little bit of advice, things like this. But like you say, that might not work for somebody else. You've got to go out and you've got to find your own answers. That's how I found it. You know.
Oh,
get back.
lost connection there. Come back. We did it. We
Can I
did
play
well there.
musical chairs?
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
But yeah, so I don't know. It's a funny balance, isn't it? You know, trying to get that right. You know, I'm never going to sit around and say I'm a counsellor, because I'm not at all. I'm just a guy. I've been through absolute hell, and I'm not even going to turn around and say I'm one of the lucky ones, because I wasn't lucky, because it was the hardest fight I've ever been involved in. It took everything for me to still be here. Absolutely everything. I lost things.
But you
I
are,
lost
mate,
a lot of
and
things.
you should be proud.
Yeah,
But you are, and you should be so proud, mate.
Do you know?
Honestly.
I'm not someone who boasts. I'm not someone who's big-headed. You know, things like this. But this, other than my children, what I've battled through and now produced from those bad times, other than my kids, it's the best thing I've ever achieved in my life. You know, and it is. I'm a firm believer. You celebrate even the smallest wins when you're battling to find any kind of positivity in your day-to-day life. Even just getting up in the morning is a win. Getting to work every day is a win. Cracking a smile sometimes is a win. It really doesn't matter how small that positive is. You take that and you shout it from the rooftops, because that in itself helps you motivate yourself. That in itself helps you get through the bad times. You just have to start again. And like you said earlier, you know, that rock bottom thing, I 100% agree with that. You know, I genuinely think if I hadn't have hit what I'd hit, I wouldn't have got the little nudge in the direction of the counselling, things like this, because the waiting list was months and months. They literally spoke to me because I was going to end my life. And the system is that broken that it has to come to that for you to get a little bit of help. But it's just such a shame that this country has come to that level of care, because there's so many people out there who are in that place at the moment, and it's utterly heartbreaking. It really is, because like yourselves, you know what that feels like to want to make that decision, and you know how dark that place is, how lonely that place is, how scary that place is, when you are sitting there trying to talk about something that you don't even understand yourself, and you almost convince yourself not to say anything because it's just easier. And that just should not be the case. It just should not be the case. But as probably both of you will agree, now you sit here talking about your feelings openly, calmly, and it's just normal everyday life nowadays. You can see how badly you were treating yourself back then because of what was up here. Whereas now you yes, we still have the days, of course we do. Like I said earlier, we still have the bad times, but they're not 6 out of 7 days now. They're probably 1 in 40, 1 in 50 days, something like this, which is,
massively.
I'll take that any day of the week. Don't get me wrong, I will
Yeah.
take one bad day in 50, happily.
Yeah.
But
Mine's more that I don't even let myself have a bad day now. Like I recognize bad moments, and if I'm feeling really shitty, like I just don't let myself stay in that. I will.
Yeah.
I did it a couple of nights ago. It might have been last. No, it was last night when I was posting about you coming on. I've had like genuinely such a stressful couple of weeks. Like the hardest bits of my job I've had, plus then other like personal stuff going on, and you just think, oh fuck, I'm just going to sit in front of the telly and do nothing. I'm going to order a takeaway, whatever. And I didn't. It was pissing down my rain, and I just forced myself to get out and run because I needed it. And before it, I wanted to do nothing, like absolutely nothing. After it, you're like, okay, it's not that bad. Like, I'm stressed. I feel a bit shit. I still went into work today feeling a bit like, but again, because I took the edge off that top bit, because I now know how to cope with it.
Yeah,
I felt better.
Yeah, it's the. I'll always say, it's the reaction to the negative that determines its outcome.
Yeah,
and if you react to it in a positive way, that's exactly how it's going to end.
Yeah, exactly.
You went out for your run, you got your endorphins going. That's phenomenal. I mean, I run a lot myself. It's great.
Yeah.
And when you're in that, I mean, my sleep is not. I sleep a maximum of 4 hours a night.
Bloody
And
hell.
there's the nights that I haven't got my kids. I've got my eldest son here with me tonight. But if I was awake at 2 a.m, I'd just literally get up, put my shorts and my t-shirt on, and I'd just go out for a couple of hours worth of running. Just because it's using that what I'd call dead time as productive.
Yeah.
I've been years now where I don't get any more than sort of 4 hours. I can cope with that. I'm just one of those people. I don't need a lot of sleep. Yeah, and it's one of those things. I work in a fast-paced industry with work and stuff like this. My mind's obviously busy with other things as well, and it's just, I don't know. I just see it as, I guess I can sleep when I'm dead, that kind of thing. I'll worry about it later then.
Yeah.
But no, it's I just try and use it as productively as possible. I'll sit and I'll do some work on the group, or I'll sit and write in my journal. And even my eldest boy, he's got some colouring that he likes to do. He suffers with anxiety. He's got some colouring. I've even been thinking lately, should I buy myself a couple of these, adult colouring books and things like this, and just sit and just try and switch off a little bit. But I've got so much stuff that I can do. I mean, I need to really plaster my house out, but I don't think the neighbours would be too happy if I start doing that at 2 o'clock in the morning. To be fair, there's plenty to do, but you know what I mean. It's just finding the productive stuff rather than the positive negative. I don't want to go to the negative ever.
Yeah, I think that's so really hard when. Sorry, I think I'm lagging a little bit. I can see my broadband. Am I okay? Good, bad?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, I can hear.
I think the hard bit is when you're living by yourself. So, for example, I live by myself. And Dean, I know you found something before around this, which when we seen the stats was pretty terrifying, right?
Yeah, it was about the life expectancy gap. So men who lack strong social connections face a 50% higher risk of premature death. So research shows that loneliness can increase mortality risks to levels comparable with smoking 15 cigarettes a day.
And again, when we talk about the need to encourage people to talk, how much of a campaign is out there about stop smoking? Yet something such as lack of human connection, which should be encouraged, right? Being sociable and being around people is such a good thing. Why is that not a big campaign of like, get out there, get active, get social, get speaking, make friends more? But again, in society, we've generally lost this community feel. You've referenced a few times, like older generations. Older generations generally had more of a community feel than today. Like today, how many people? Some people might know their neighbor, but the likelihood is they don't know most of the people on their street, and they definitely don't know people on the next street. Where back in the day, people knew people on their street because socially, everyone, to Dean's point, would sit and play out in the street together, or they would socialize together. Yeah, we're getting our social through mainly digital and mainly things like gaming or just sitting in front of the telly and not even being social, never mind social media. I think we've just got to, if you were to say to, if you were to propose the challenge to anyone and said, okay, generally society is feeling depressed, lonely, suicidal, anxiety's on the rise, like all of the common mental health or health discussions that are spoken about, obesity being on the rise as well. If you listed all of the top things and then just underneath it said, okay, spend more time with people, talk more to people, how much would all of that go away? If it was mandatory that you had to spend 2 hours a day with a group of people doing something positive, how much of all of those statistics would massively come down?
Yes.
A run,
It's a very
going
good
for
point.
food, playing a sport, whatever it is. Like, so where society isn't going to enforce that, we as people need to be proactive in getting involved in stuff like that to help
That's
and
the thing,
support our mental
it's
health.
being in the real world again, isn't it? You know, the whole, like you say, the whole world this day and age is up in the clouds. You know, you've got, like you said about the smoking thing, you know, on the cigarette packet, you've got smoke and kills. Well, not being in the real world, that's a killer, because in this internet-based world, we're all just silent. We're not talking reality. You know, this social media world should come with a health warning. You know, it's living in the internet kills, you know, this kind of thing, you know, because we're not, like you say, we're not engaging in real life. We're not. I'd love to set up a youth club. And my dad actually had a fantastic idea, you know, set up a youth club run by retired people, you know, veterans, things like this as well.
Amazing.
You know, because to do that, you would get then back older, younger generation respect levels. You know, respect your elders, this kind of thing. You're taught by real people who know how to do real things, who have lived in the real world, a real life. You know, not this fake, you know, hide behind filters, this kind of thing. I mean, I sit here, you know, I'm fully aware that my group is based online. But
before anyone says,
the thing is, the way the world is this day, you have to be, because that's
it's accessible though.
That is how we're going to capture the people that we need to capture, because that's where everybody is. I get that, I understand it, but I'm also a very, very big advocate for getting my kids outside and playing football. I'm, you know, my eldest son plays in a football team, my youngest son plays in a football team. My daughter, who lives over in Norwich, sort of 30-40 minutes away, she does stuff with her children, you know, things like it's so important to get people out in the real world. You know, me and my, after all I've been through with my back injuries and things like this, I'm still climbing trees with my kids, picking conkers and things like this. I shouldn't be up a tree, for God's sake, but when I see a tree, that takes me back to when I was 8 or 9 years old. I'm the first one up there. But you know what I mean? That's what life is about. It's so easy to just sit behind a phone, sit behind a, you know, an iPad, whatever, and just forget about the world out there. But that's, like you say, that's something we have to drum into this younger generation. And like I say, a youth club, things like this, that's something that's a real goal of mine. And to have somewhere where we can have a club where we get someone from a bank in to teach kids how to handle money, things like this. You know, we could have someone come in
real world life skills.
Exactly. Someone come in and teach the kids how to be a tradesman, rather than just sit, I'm going to be an influencer, something like this. You know, learn how to build a house, learn how to fix a car, learn how to. These people are still always going to need houses. You're always going to need cars. You're always going to need this, that. learn how to be an electrician, go work on the wind farms. You know, they're going to be the thing of the future. There's so much real life stuff that these kids just are so naive to in this day and age. But it's the stuff that's going to change their life. You know, we need to pull this social media world back a little bit. We really do. But how, like you say, how do you do it? How this new AI thing that's coming out these days, it's scary, this AI thing. You know, I went on that Chat GPT thing the other day for the first time. Why didn't I have that at school? My God, that would have, let's just say I'd have passed my GCSEs easier.
Why are kids still at school if they've got ChatGPT? They don't need it. They don't need to go to school anymore.
It's
crazy.
you
don't need it. Yeah, you don't need it, exactly.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Like
madness.
It does feel like society is on a. So, for example, I don't know if either of you have looked at. I'm going slightly off topic here, but so Elon Musk he has a business called Neuralink, and basically it's putting chips in your brain.
Yeah,
and a key purpose of that is to help with illnesses like mental and physical. But dementia is a big one, because ultimately what happens with dementia is your brain, the electrolysis in your brain stops computing with itself, I presume. And that's when your memory starts to switch off and your brain isn't communicating with itself. For anyone, I am not a brain surgeon.
I'm just laughing because you forgot.
Yeah.
Like, what's that dementia
just
thing
to give
again?
that away, I'm not a brain surgeon. Exactly. So the electric wasn't quite. The hamster wheel wasn't spinning. So he's looking at putting chips in our brains, which ultimately the idea is that it enriches our lives because it makes us more healthy, improves bodily capability, functions, all those sorts of things. But the challenge with that is, and he was on Joe Rogan actually, and he was talking about it, and he was saying, and Joe Rogan was like, "This is ridiculous. We're not putting chips in our brains." And he was like, "Yeah, but people walk around with that every day.
Yeah.
So all I'm doing is taking the chip from that and putting it there, and all that is a speed gap from it being there and you having to type to you just thinking, and it does the thinking with you or for you or however that works, and it's fucking terrifying. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I hear stuff like
scary.
that.
You're effectively turning people into robots.
Yeah,
but
it's
I think it's not for me. Like,
no,
but
way.
It will come.
No way.
Because
I'm just. I don't think I will.
Because when the person who has the chip in his brain becomes the richest person in the world, or the cleverest person in the world, or whatever he or she becomes, or they become. That was a joke there, by the way. Whatever they become,
cancelled.
Cancelled. Whatever they become is so advanced compared to everyone else. And then once the uptake comes, and then you get even more of a intelligence gap, you will have to have it to keep up.
Yeah.
Otherwise,
everyone will jump on the bandwagon when they see how good it is. Of course they will.
Yeah. But then are you controlled by the machines?
Yeah.
Possibly?
I'm happy to just be a dumbass. I'm gonna stick with that. Yeah. I'm good.
Yeah, I think it's all these things where you mentioned AI and things. All that ultimately becomes is we are more like robots. We are less like humans. Humans have emotions. Humans have feelings. And while we keep trying to act like robots and ignoring our emotions and feelings, then we will keep feeling and the way we are, and mental health, physical health will continue to decline. So I did do a really good job of looping that back round. You're welcome, anyone who's listened to that.
That was awesome.
But ultimately, that's where we're at, right? If we keep going down this innovation route of technology, we lose who we are as people. And we're seeing within the trends within the health, both mental and physical, the more that technology is ramping up, the less we are being human, and human is our emotions and who we are. And we really need to almost take steps back within society and start accepting being human and all of our faults and the problems that we have as good things, not as things we need to eradicate, because you can't eradicate as you said before, if someone feels it, it's important. So we can't just eradicate it because it doesn't fit the social media pressure of being perfect, looking great, everything's always fine, because that's not real life. None of us go through our life, even those influencers who try to portray that world, go through life with everything being perfectly fine.
Yeah, they just don't post the bad stuff. They only post the good stuff.
Exactly.
They won't sit there and say, "Oh, I've got a $5,000 tax bill coming. I don't know what I'm going to do for the rest of the year." You know, the normal everyday struggles that people suffer. They just post, "Oh, I'm going to this glitzy, glamorous party tonight," or "I've just got myself a new car," or "Oh, I'm pregnant." You know, this, that, and the other. But it's the bad stuff. You know, that's where we need to get people talking. It's the negative stuff that they need to get out of here. You know, we've all got positive things. Every single person's got something positive in their head. Yeah, great. Post it, shout about it as a win. Brilliant. I'm all for that. But it's the bad stuff. That's the stuff that's going to end up in a mess. And that's the stuff we need to almost
You can't just
bring
ignore
to
it.
the. No, you can't.
Yeah.
You can't. That's
what
where
we've said
that's
before.
the bit.
You keep ignoring it, and you end up at that point of being in your car wanting to drive into a shop.
Exactly.
Well,
You are just creating a time bomb. That's all you're doing. That is like a pressure cooker. And eventually everyone has a breaking point. Everybody has got a breaking point.
Yeah,
you know, and by the sound of things, we've all been at the stage where we've met our breaking points. But you know, it's
to be fair, right? Dean hasn't. Dean's been pretty good. He's also there's a real irony, right? There's a real irony of him running a health podcast because he doesn't physical health. He's so passionate, so focused on it. Like that's your thing in life, isn't it? Like you love playing football.
Yeah.
You love nutrition, diet, all those sorts of things. Like you're super passionate about that. The mental health part is definitely something that you almost do the ignore thing, and I'm okay.
Yeah, I'm really good at the ignore thing, and I'm okay. Like, I'm really good at just forget. Well, obviously, this is probably the start of it, as Ryan's just said there. But this is an issue, but it's an issue for us for 5 seconds, and then I just never think about it again until it's a big problem, and then I again just don't think about it again. It's probably not healthy, really. And I know it, as I say. Same thing with the procrastination.
Spoken to enough experts who've told you it's not healthy.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but at least I know that when it comes, I'm in a good position to be able to deal with it because of the things that you guys have given me and stuff.
Yeah, it's one of those where, so Dean's my best friend, right? And there's a group of us, and we'll talk about things, and we'll talk about maybe some of our shared experiences, and where Dean probably has felt the same at certain points, but has this incredible ability for it to not actually affect him, where to most of us, it does affect us.
Other people are telling me that it's a problem, but I'm like, I don't think it is. But yeah, like I say, it probably is really deep down. Again, when you say it out loud, it does sounds like a slippery slope. So, as Ryan says there, he's the same. It's probably definitely not healthy, but in the short term.
And we only live for today, not for tomorrow. So
that's it. Is
that what you're saying?
That's it.
Yeah.
I think he's got through today without exploding. We'll see what tomorrow brings.
Yeah, I think Gary, you're right. It's called masking.
It's one of those where there isn't, just because, and we spoke about this actually, and I'm interested in your views on this, Stu. We've spoke about this where Dean's said in the past, and it is a fair point. The more you talk about it sometimes, the more you feel it. And sometimes feeling it, if you don't know how to cope with how you're feeling it, can be negative because you're actually really feeling those deep emotions. Where for me, it's been liberating because I was walking around for a long time with what felt like the weight of the world on my shoulders. And then talking about it, I felt, fucking hell, I can breathe now. But how have you found that? Like, have you found sometimes when you're so focused on it that it affects your health, or do you just get the positive from it?
I now get the positive from it, but for me, it was about acceptance first. Once I'd accepted what I was feeling, what I was going through, how it was making me feel, how it was making others feel around me, things like this, you know, it was then that it was making me worse because I was kind of overthinking it all the time. Oh, and that was where I was bringing other people into it as well. Whereas now, when I sit and think about it and talk about it, I could sit and talk to you guys for hours about all the bad times and not think twice about it. But I think acceptance of what you're going through, learning about what you're going through, all those kind of things, that's where the mindset kind of switches. I sat there, and there's a guy called David Goggins, who is an ex-American Navy. You've heard of him? Read his book. Anybody who is struggling, read David Goggins' book called You Can't Hurt Me. That was his first book. And he does this thing called the accountability mirror, where you stand in front of your mirror and you basically kick your own ass. And you tell yourself, yes, I've got PTSD. You're suffering with depression. You're not a failure, all this kind of stuff. And you make yourself accountable for everything that you're thinking and feeling in your life. And you can set goals. So you stick a post-it note on your mirror. I want to do 100 press-ups today. And if you go back to that accountability mirror at the end of the day, before you go to bed, I haven't done my press-ups. You know, you keep that post-it note on the mirror till the following day, and that stays on there until you're now accountable for those 100 press-ups. You know, that kind of thing. Ryan's just said, "Who's going to carry the boats?" He's obviously read the book. You know, but the book is phenomenal about changing your mindset. It really, really is. But a massive, massive stage of it is about acceptance, and he talks about that a lot. You know, you have to accept who you are now, because when you're dealing with mental health issues, this new life that you're now going on this adventure of finding, this new life, you're never going to be the old you again. In some respects, you know, in some ways you will be, but you've now got added layers to you. I'm gonna have PTSD for the rest of my days. I fully accept that. But dealing with all these things, you learn how to incorporate them into your everyday. Because, like I said, we've all said it. You know, you can sit there and you can just focus on the negatives, but now it's how to use those negatives as a positive fuel. So, you know, so you have to incorporate anxiety into your everyday. You have to incorporate the depression into your everyday. And it's a slow grind of a process, but it's just accept what you're going through. Learn a new coping mechanism. Learn how to deal with being in a crowded area if you suffer with anxiety, you know, and then you can start finding the ways to deal with it all. It's, I mean, I keep seeing Gary Rolfe pop up on the questions. And can I just give Gary a quick shout out, because Gary is the ultimate success story. This guy, when he joined my group, this guy was sleeping on a wooden pallet in a doorway. And he was basically at the stage where he just didn't know what to do. He was probably the most lost soul I've ever spoken to. And Gary now has got a place to live. He's now starting a job as a trainee kind of radio producer. He's got his kids back in his life. The only downside to Gary is he's a Middlesbrough fan. You know, but everyone's got something bad about him, you know.
Gary, stop commenting on this.
Being a Newcastle fan, you know, I've got to put that out there that Gary's a Middlesbrough fan, you know.
You're a Newcastle fan?
Yeah, I'm a Newcastal fan,
I didn't know that. I gauged the southwestern accent and thought.
No, I'm from Norwich originally.
Yeah.
But I've always been a Newcastle fan. Sorry?
Is your accent southwest?
No, Norfolk.
It sounds like you're from like Bristol, Exeter, Plymouth way.
No, that's very, very similar accent. Very similar accent. But yeah, it's no, Gary has been through the absolute ringer in life. But that
Love
guy,
that for you, Gary, mate. Well done.
Gary he has been an absolute warrior. He is literally like, the biggest success story, I think, outside of what I've read in other people, someone who I've actually spent time speaking to, Gary has literally smashed life. And I am so proud of that lad. I really am. You know, me and Gary are similar ages, but that guy has literally come from the devil's lap himself, you know, and he's got his kids back. You know, he's recently been told that he can take his again, he's going to take his son to a Middlesbrough game, but that for Gary, that is like
why
that
is
is
he
Child abuse.
because that is the pinnacle, because he thought he was never going to get that again at one point, but he's literally taken his lad to the Middlesbrough games and he's spending time with
Unreal.
him. Gary, man, Gary, I am so fucking proud of you, brother. I sincerely mean that from the bottom of my heart. It's making me emotional
we are
thinking
too,
about
mate.
his story, because 18 months ago that guy was like, he was ready. He's put in there, you know, a part of him died laying on that pallet, and I can quite believe that. But the man that Gary is now has been built on every single bad time that lad has ever been through. He truly is, and he's. I've got so much respect for that. That's unreal.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly,
Unreal.
do you know what
Class Gary, mate.
the thing is? It's so good hearing success stories, because again, when we talk about these conversations, we try and get this balance, and it's really fucking hard, because you want to land the fact it's a problem. You want to land that, and to do that, you have to talk about some pretty deep shit. But to inspire people to make a change, you need to hear the good stories, and you need to hear people like Gary, for all his sins for being a Middlesbrough fan, has done something incredible by helping himself, one, be the best person he can now be today, but then two, to be the dad for his kids. And like, that's as we were talking before about the next generation and education, what a role model for his kids and his kids, the people around his kids' life.
He recently sent me some. He was on a sort of a day out with his kids, and he sent me a few pictures. And I've got no shame in admitting I sat on my couch and I had my 3-year-old son to my right, and I sat there in tears. And my 3-year-old's like, "Daddy, why are you upset?" And I asked, as happy tears. But it made me think to myself, I nearly wasn't here sitting on my couch with my son. And to see Gary, who nearly wasn't there with his kids, celebrating, his kids had such a smile on their faces, and Gary sat there with such a smile on his face. And I know what that guy's been through, and he knows what I've been through, and you boys know, you know, what we've all been through. And that feeling to see Gary like that. And don't get me wrong, Gary's not the only massive success story in the group, but
I was about to say that there's fucking hundreds. There is so many of them.
But Gary, just seeing Gary's name there pop up, just literally, I just needed to shout him out, because that, seeing them pictures, I literally sat there in floods of tears. Like I say, I'm not ashamed to sit there and admit I'll cry at a bloody photo now, you know, even if it is a Middlesbrough fan, you know. But you know, but I'm going to keep giving you grief for that, Gary. That's never going to stop. But no, that's that in itself. That inspires me to keep going, to keep being better every day, and to keep, hoping to inspire others as well. And it's a lovely circle to be in now, rather than that vicious circle every day of just being in the negative. It's a much better place to be in.
Yeah, I suppose just as we come to the end of the podcast, and we're on this last little section here, would be, what do you, with all of what you've just said there, which is like so emotionally powerful. Before this, we'll let Gary have his right of reply. Bring it on, bro. See you in the Premiership next season. Gary, you can tell you've not been in it that long, mate. It's called the Premier League now for us teams in the Premier League. You can stay in the thing that ends with a ship in the Championship, mate. Best of luck. But no, everyone loves a derby day, right? I think
definitely.
With everything you've just said there around Gary and the helping and the support and the amazing things from the group, what's your vision for the group? Like, what do you hope to achieve with it moving forward? Like, do you have a vision, or is it just more of the same? Like, what's the future of the Man Cave look like?
To be honest with you, I want to. My ultimate goal, if I had an ideal world, was that every single man in the world knows about it. Every single man just knows that there is somewhere where they can talk, and that's that message itself. Just speaking, lads, just literally talking. And like I said, even if it's like my journal, just write words down, just so that you can start. And that is where I want the group to go. I just want everybody to find a way to find that voice, because that is where your salvation is. That is where, when you can start to get that out of there, that is where your journey begins. That's like stepping onto the train. And that's the vision for the group, is just to get more men talking. We just keep this snowball effect going, where we've got this brotherhood of support. Yes, I'd like to do things like open hostels. I'd like to open a youth club, but they're a long way off at the moment. We're still only, we're not even 2 years old yet as a group. I want to grow it. I want to keep it going. We're growing by the day. But the vision is just to get more and more men involved. We're just going to keep joining. I've got a radio interview to do tomorrow with a local counsellor. He's someone who suffers with mental health. He'll freely admit that. I've got doing that tomorrow. Obviously you guys tonight as well. But it's just keep growing the group, keep putting the word out there, and that, to me, just for people to know that the group is there, that's as important as joining the group. Because if they ever do decide to start talking,
That they
can just click that link and answer 3 questions, and they're in. That is as simple as that. And that for me is the ultimate goal, is just for men to know that there is somewhere, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel, because there is. And I same as probably you, Lewis, I sat there one day and thought to myself, this is it for me now. I genuinely do not want to be here anymore. This darkness is too much. I can't take it anymore. But then I look back from where I am now, and yes, it was a fight. Yes, it was a battle, and it was the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. And like I say, I lost a lot, but I found more than I lost. And I love that. And I gained more than I ever dreamed I could. My headspace is probably better than it's ever been. And that's all thanks to the dark times, in my opinion. And the dark times, they do make you a better person. They do make you a more positive person. They definitely make you a stronger person. And you appreciate life a hell of a lot more once you've been through the darker times. Because when you get to that light, and it will come, it definitely will come, when you get to that light, you're so grateful. I don't know about you guys, but I am so thankful every day that I went through what I've been through. Because if I didn't, I wouldn't be sitting here now with you boys. And I wouldn't be sitting there with 3,400 brothers, that I speak to nearly every day. That I am so thankful for. And my son, who's upstairs at the moment playing on his Xbox, he's actually watching this. He sent something in there a little while ago just saying, so proud of you, Dad, you're my hero. And to have that from literally, there you go, well done, Dad, true hero. To have that from my son, that's
mate, my eyes are going there, man.
Mate, that is literally, that is going to shape lads of his age. This kind of thing that we're doing tonight, that is going to shape the future of this world.
Yeah.
And that's where the group is going, buddy. We are going to change this stigma. We are going to change people's views on this. And we are going to build a voice that the people who need to hear and do something about it will hear. And I'm certainly not going to rest until that voice is heard.
Yeah, I love that. Honestly, absolutely love it.
Unreal.
Yeah, unreal. We are at the end of the episode here, but I just want to say thanks, Stu. Like, firstly, for people who don't know, me and Stu have probably only been talking about this a couple of weeks, something like that.
Yeah, a couple of
And
weeks. Yeah.
Stu was so passionate about coming on. Like, honestly, we had a guest which couldn't make tonight, and within 2 days, Stu was like, "Yeah, honestly, mate, I want to get the message out there. I'm so passionate about helping." So, to our listeners who are outside of the Man Cave group, who will listen to this at a later date, either on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Amazon Music, or a later date on Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. If you're a man who is struggling or knows someone who's struggling, please join the Man Cave. Even if you're not struggling, join as a proactive measure for knowing that there's a community there of like-minded men who are passionate about living. Like, it, I can't express how positive that group is, with encouragement, support, positivity. Yes, there's the raw emotions of the pain, but also it's about you see every single day men stepping up to help other men, and there just isn't enough of that in the real world, and the Man Cave truly does give us that. So
Yeah.
I encourage anyone who isn't a member to definitely join. It's completely free. It's a group on Facebook. It's not something that Stu's doing because he's sat here getting paid for it. He's created a group for men to be able to talk and
it's
listen
totally
and
private
learn.
as well. So unless you're a member of the
Totally
group,
private, exactly.
nobody else can see it. It's completely private.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think that's another thing. I do think that's another thing, because sometimes we're not open, or we're not ready to open up to all of our friends, all of our families publicly on Facebook.
Yeah.
It's a private group that is hidden behind and protected by the members, which is great. And it's amazing. Dean,
There's even
any
a
sort of
feature in there
last
as well
thought?
where you can post anonymously as well. If you don't want people to know who you are and who you post, you can post anonymously so your name won't appear.
Yeah, that's awesome. I see that quite regularly as well, which again is maybe where certain people are on their journey of opening up, which is great. I think if I had a route earlier of being able to be anonymous, I might have spoken up earlier. So I think that's a really good point. But yeah, that wraps up the episode. And honestly, Stu, we're so grateful, mate. You've absolutely
I'm
smashed
grateful
it.
for the opportunity, lads, because you've obviously used your platform to try and put the word out there for us, which is we're all singing under the same umbrella. You know, we're all going in the same direction. So it's fantastic, and it's great to be a part of what you boys are doing as well, because you are literally taking a lot of people and what they're trying to do with the world, and you're showing it to the world, which is fantastic as well. So thank you very much for what you boys do as well.
Thanks for coming on.
Honestly,
appreciate it.
This isn't the last we will be involved, I'm sure. Especially now we know you're a Newcastle fan. That makes life even better. You're now one of the boys.
I'll have to come up for a weekend, and we'll have to go to a game or something. That'd be good.
That sounds class. That does sound very good. I'm not gonna lie.
Awesome.
We'll do an in-person pod. Sounds good.
I'd love that. That'd be awesome.
Ideal.
Cool. All right. Well, to everyone who has listened, thank you very much for listening. To all the people who commented, we are so grateful that you commented. As always, please like, share, subscribe, follow the podcast wherever you listen to it. We are so passionate about it. We talk about men's health, women's health, physical health, social challenges. You can hate Geordies all you want, Gary, but you're now a fan of a Geordie podcast, so we're
I should have worn my shirt, Gary.
Yeah, that's it. But yeah, please continue to help us if you can. Get our message out there too, that nobody should suffer in silence. Life is absolutely worth living, and we will catch you on the next episode. Thank you and good night.